Welcome to ATG Podcast. Different of us may lead the podcast. I'm leading this one today. And my question is, why ATG? If you've seen stuff on Instagram, that's where most people probably first saw it. You get a little of the reasoning behind ATG. YouTube, you then get way more of the reasoning behind ATG. So the purpose of this podcast is to see if we can give you even more reasoning. And really any podcast, for it to be valuable, we should be getting some more of the why behind ATG than we do. So why ATG? We'll start, Fernando, why ATG?
Okay. For me, it is simply an organization of senior data. So you have all information, all studies, all this stuff would be considered data, right? And then it's a sort of isolated, what we have found that works for us with thousands of clients from all different types of backgrounds, what has worked and does work for people, and we've created a system from the ground up. What do you want to call it? Stretch strength. All these things are basically an isolation of the senior data, of the data that is most important, that all other things can build on. Okay, so it's not that anything is right or wrong, it's that these have a base foundation that if you at least did that, you would get really, really good results, if not anything you might be looking for. So to me, that's what it is. It's a system. It doesn't mean it's the best or the only, but it is a workable system. So if you want to try to figure out your own system, maybe it works better and blah, 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 go ahead. We have done this over a combined, it's got to be 30 plus years between all of us here and more from other people that have been part of the group. And it's like, this works. It's never not worked. For the last 5, 6, 7, we've really had it down. And so that to me is why ATG is it's a group that has continued to study, observe for themselves, and add into this pool of what works, kind of discard the rest, that old principle. So
that's a good overview. And yeah, I mean, in terms of work or not work, it's not worked, I'm sure, 100,000 times for people out there, for any of us, meaning it's like degrees of how it works.
Right.
And so we're just trying openly and honestly to find the stuff that gives you the most bang for your buck. Like if you're going to put time into exercise, we're trying to give you results with that time. So like we can go to Derek, because that brings up like how we adopted training is people would walk into ATG, and Derek, like what was the first thing? What was the first exercise? Like you walk in.
Yeah, split squat.
Sled. We've never done split squat first in ATG.
What
the heck are you guys drinking on?
You talking about when I first came there, I had an imbalance in my hips, and I remember Fernando was like, "Bro, you gotta get on these split squats." You know what I'm saying?
I do remember.
But
Big bang for So
yeah,
split squat. But you can elaborate on that. Like split squat is a big bang for your buck, meaning the time you spend on it, you get a lot of different results. I just meant kind of like
the first.
Literally the first.
Okay, yeah, like definitely sleds. Sleds is numero uno when it comes to walking in an ATG gym. But for me, as far as why ATG, man, I think it's in the name, man. Athletic Truth Group. So athletic, I always want to be an athlete for the rest of my life. I'm not really into the bodybuilding scene. I'm not really into the yogi scene, but I do want to be an athlete. And truth is key, because I want to live my life in truth. So I think it's in the name, athletic truth. And then group is, I feel like you're more inspired when you have other people around you that are going in a particular direction, that kind of like that you can commune with, and you can kind of have that camaraderie and that brotherhood, so to speak. So Athletic Truth Group is why ATG for me, you know what I mean? Because and there's longevity in that, you know what I mean? Athletic Truth and Group is 3 things that you can experience longevity with, you know what I mean? Me and you've been knowing each other for over 10 years, and so that's
14 years. I met you 14 years ago.
Yeah, and so and the foundation is ATG and training and working out and basketball. So so you establish a lot of relationships in that as well. And and ATG has allowed a lot of people to develop a lot of long-term relationships within the Athletic Truth Group. So
true.
Yeah, that's why for me, that's one of the reasons.
That's actually really good insight. I hadn't thought about leading into this, which is, so you say the word athletic. That is something that separates us in the sense that, look, if you want to pursue bodybuilding and going up on stage in a banana hammock in front of a bunch of people, That's your sport.
Well,
you can do that.
They are athletes.
Yeah.
A good high-level yogi and a bodybuilder are definitely athletes, but it's one athletic event.
Yeah.
So what you meant there's like broader general.
And for us, it's how we move. There's not a mirror in this gym.
Right.
This is one of the only gyms there's no mirror. So that's what we're training for. We're training for how we move. Do we want to look good? Yeah, but we don't talk about that. We don't measure, like for the ATG system, we're training to be athletic. We're not training to measure different body parts. We're not training for what someone else is going to review how we look. We're not training only to lift a certain weight. And again, there's degrees. So yeah, there's degrees of athleticism in bodybuilding. There's degrees of athleticism in powerlifting. But we're training much more for athleticism, moving these bodies. Like when we talk about it for Derek, it's like, is he going to dunk when he's 50?
Yeah.
That is that's a different type of exercise system. Yeah. So the athletic part, that is a big distinguishment of like, why did we make this group? Well, you got yoga, powerlifting, body, you have all these different things. ATG is a bit different than all these. It actually uses tools from all those, but for the purpose of just being athletic, for whatever we want to be athletic at. And then, as Derek said, truth, that word gets a lot of hate. Like, truth is not a cool word in this day because it's been abused. And so even at times, I'm like, I don't care if you call it Athletic Truth Group, just ATG. But hearing Derek say that, you know what? We have really put our money where our mouth is when it comes to the word truth. So like, we've helped correct for millions of people this false data on no knees over toes. Like, we are trying to do the truth. And that even goes for admitting where we're wrong. So like, if we can't admit where we're wrong, if we can't try to improve the system, if we can't give context on the system, then we would be abusing the word truth as well. So I like that it keeps us focused. Truth, man, if I lie to you about something, I'm going to try to correct it. Yeah. That's a really guiding word. And then as you said with group, we're here together. Why not just be like, why not the four of us just be completely separate, do our own things? It's a very interesting thing. So I'm curious what to shift to Conor, Derek, Fernando and I were friends as kids. Yeah. Derek and I became friends 14 years ago. Conor was one of our early ATG online members.
Oh, cool.
I think I was literally like in the first 25 or 30 people.
Yeah.
Pretty early. So, you guys did a great job to start off. Bang for the buck, importance. We're trying to help you to maximize your time, to get results that are athletic. Yeah. We want to try to be as honest with you as we can, and we want to try to keep a strong group.
Yeah. Conor.
Oh, gosh.
So now, how can you add to that? Or really, what's your experience? What's your thoughts? There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, I think when it comes to me, like, firstly, even getting involved in the group in the first place, right? A lot of that had to do with when I was, like, first talking to you. Because I actually met you via Stephen Selly. And then, like, we talked a lot about knee pain and jumping and things like that. Like, I was just looking for more truth. Not like the absolute truth, but just more truth of things that actually worked, that I could use, and that also that the people around me in my 24-hour fitness at the time were asking me for help for.
I remember.
Yeah. So, I even started like a little training group with a bunch of dudes who play basketball there to just go through workouts with me. But I think the biggest thing of like why ATG for me,
that's interesting,
is that it really does have to do with that truth part. But, like, what is the truth actually mean? Like, for me, what that's meant in terms of ATG has been that we've got these group of people who all have very, like, specific goals that they want to achieve. Some people that's bodybuilding, some people that's dunking, some people that's, like, being able to do things as long as they can at the highest level they can. And you see lots of people who get into these, like, niche fields of, like, exercise, kind of forget the rest and then plateau and they never get further. And something I thought that ATG had really done well was not getting so pigeonholed into one specific way of doing things, but looking elsewhere to be like, okay, you know what, like, I can't squat full depth, but maybe the answer isn't just like trying to load more weight. Maybe it's trying to do body weight and get into these deeper ranges and get more flexible too, and that will actually alleviate the problem. So by being open-minded like that and actually looking at every aspect of training, I think we've been able to find solutions for more people so that does get closer to the truth. Because the way I've always looked at training for like the last 5 years has been, there are objective ways to train. Like if you want to gain muscle, there is a way to gain muscle. You lift more and you eat more, right? If you want to jump higher, like there is a way to train to jump higher. It just involves multiple aspects. But when you go too deep down one path and forget the rest, you actually end up like shooting yourself in the foot and not being able to go as far as you could have because you're lacking some aspect of training that would help you. And funny enough, the biggest thing I've ever gotten out of ATG isn't actually the ATG part, but it's the word we've always thrown around of like ability. And I think I've talked to you about this before, but like ability to me is not just like one thing. It involves a bunch of aspects of like strength, flexibility, how fast you are, what's your range of motion, and how skilled are you. Like, and we always focus on all those things from the viewpoint of the person and what they're trying to do, not just what we're trying to do. And that's why we have a group, because each of us can have our own little viewpoint and speak to those people and find solutions that work for those people. But we also know that my solution is not your solution, but our solutions are based off the same like equation.
Right, and like you said, a solution or the way you train for, let's say, purely jumping higher, there is going to be benefit and data there and information there that will help the guy who wants to build more muscle. That's the thing what you were saying in the beginning, is like there is an intertwinement. There is a like cross, like you said, cross. So there might be emphasis, what we mainly do, eating more, training heavier, going to failure. But one of the biggest plateau issues with bodybuilders is they're not strong enough. Or they don't, sometimes if you do some plyometrics, these guys have big calves, so there's always a crossover ability. So that's, ATG has this very like high view of all training modalities, and they can kind of, we figured out like how to apply it to that goal.
How do we mesh them together? And as all of us go deeper and deeper into like our areas and try to get better and better, and like see people underneath us have problems or not have problems, we start like creating this, I don't know what I would call it, like a web of programs that actually allow anyone from any situation to improve. Because again, we're not all made the same. Like we're not all going to reach the same levels, but we can all improve. And the only thing that's stopping us from that is some understanding of how to increase any given ability from where it's at right now.
You hit the keyword though that actually made ATG a thing. So the word ability. All right, so
is it Ability Truth Group?
No, Athletic Truth Group does encompass it, but what made Athletic Truth Group? So I was going along, working my ass off as an athlete, trying all the stuff I was told to do. Never let my knees over my toes, never worked with the full range of motion. My knee was my weakest link. Wound up with knee surgery. The time when I met Derek like 14 years ago, I had painkillers in my car. Like I was pumping them if I was going to try to play basketball, if I was going to try to work out. And so everything I thought at that point was, you have a knee problem, you need to avoid the ability of the knee. You need to find the right knee brace. You need to find the right painkiller. You need to ice the knee. You need to get the right surgery. Every other means, laser therapy, massage, I did not realize about training the ability of the knee. And if you go on Google, Google did not tell you to train the ability of the knee. So realizing that improving the ability of the knee would lead me to get off the painkillers, not have a surgery since then. You guys have been hooping with me for this last decade. Have you ever seen me not only not able to play, but not able to play my ass off because of my knee? Never. It's only from training, realizing I could train the ability of my knee. So now what we've done for millions of people, from Joe Rogan talking about it to just the grassroots movement of all you out there listening and telling, like Conor was one of our first online members. I remember, sometimes I get a flashback of like, I remember where I was sitting in my car coaching Conor's form videos with him teaching his buddies, and like he was sending me video of him teaching his buddies how to do it. So immediately he was helping people. So you have this whole grassroots movement of millions of people now who realized what I didn't realize, which changed my life, which was ability. So you have this problem part of the body. This is not to negate any of the other ways of handling it that I mentioned. And that's where the truth part comes in. If I said there's no value in surgery, that's false. There is some value in surgery. If I said there's no value in knees behind toes, that's false. There is some value in that. Is there value in knee ability? Damn straight there is. And that was not understood for millions of people and actually prevented. And this is why we have a group, because the college system established no knees over toes. I don't know their intent. I believe the intent was good. 1978, they found when your knee goes over your toe, there's more pressure on it. So the conclusion, okay, there's more pressure, so avoid it. 2013, college found out conclusively, analyzing 162 research papers, it is safe. In fact, you don't have more risk of injury. And when you use the knee fully, you actually reduce your chances of lower body injury. You have an effective exercise to help preserve your knee. Now, if that was College Truth Group, it would have immediately send it to all the colleges, make public announcements. Everyone right now in college needs to be aware of this data. We need to correct it. If anything, it's been suppressed rather than made aware. There didn't need to be an ATG. There should not be an ATG. I am one of the luckiest bastards on earth that college did not. They got the true data, but they didn't spread the true data. Right. So I have been making an effort over the last year to even identify where have I not been truthful. If I have made you think that a Nordic is better than a hamstring curl machine, that was not truthful. Or that you only should do a Nordic and not a hamstring curl machine, that was not truthful. I've never said that outright, but some content could lead you to think that the Nordic is the greatest thing and that hamstring curl is not so great. The true data is Fernando and I were training football teams. Derek and I were running group classes. I wasn't a personal trainer. We trained groups. I was never a personal trainer. We couldn't put a ton of people at a time through a hamstring curl machine. Hamstring curl machines cost thousands of dollars. You can't move them around. They're so hard to move. To make use of our space, Derek and I would come in the morning. We'd set up 3 sleds. We had to have 3 of everything. 3 sleds, 3 back extensions, 3 slant boards, 3. There was not space or movability of 3 hamstring curl machines. There was for Nordic benches. And then we found we could elevate the Nordic benches. So we'd have NFL players side by side with house moms working on Nordics because we didn't have access to a hamstring curl machine. So I think that's where the truth is going forward, is it's an effort. Someone out there could say, Ben's a liar. You, in your own life, you're the one who knows if something's true to you or not. But you do have to consciously be pursuing that. Be pursuing being as honest as you can be. So yes, we've done some good work on truth, but that word is key to guide us. We're not going to try to prove that it's truthful. We're just going to try to be truthful. And I think that's where we're not going to be the ones to tell you this is proven and you must do it because of this. Nope. We're going to try to show you why. We're going to try to explain why. We're going to try to be truthful about it. But anyways, It was cool that Conor brought up this word ability because that's what made the need for ATG.
And I want to. It's not just, okay, here's how you train the ability. It's how do you train the ability from where you're at? And that's the art, I think, of ATG.
Now, this is something. How do we encompass this word? Because we've got some good keywords here. So, like, step by step. Scale. I mean, really, it's like
scalability.
The art. Literally, scalability. Like,
there you go.
Progressions.
It's scaling the ability from any point, whether you're an advanced Olympian athlete or a 70-year-old who has knee pain, knee surgery.
Right.
Yeah. And that is truthfully, like, a lot of the solutions come from a lack of scalability. Like surgeries and these things, they have place, they have merit. Like, I mean, I've had one for my foot when I was younger. Like, I needed it because it was something that I was not going to fix by just waiting and, like, training. But some things, and I would say, a lot of things or most things,
more than people may think,
correct, are actually problems of scalability. And there's 2 sides to the scalability. There's the regression aspect, which I even hate the word because it has, like, negative connotations, but it's not negative. Like, actually what you're doing is you're not regressing, you're just training where you're at.
Exactly.
Like, and from there you progress and scale upward. Like, people run into injury only because they ever scaled too far too quickly. Yeah, they skipped the level of ability that they were at. And that's been the thing that ATG has done, I think, superbly, is, like, everything scales so low that, again, your grandmother could do it, like, someone who had just come off of knee surgery could do it. and that the exact path of like, how do you get all the way back from this level of ability to the level of ability that you want? That's there. Yeah.
And then that ties in with the squat, and it's like, okay, back in the 70s, if you have knee pain and you try to squat, ask her, okay, yeah, you can't. So then the answer was, oh, well, then just don't do it.
Right.
That's essentially what happened.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, that's simply way later on the chain.
Yeah,
you had to start way back here.
The level. Yeah.
Exactly. And so instead of people going and trying to find, well, what can I do to get to that point?
Yes.
It was just avoid it. It was just,
it was that we've always talked about like, what's the word? It's basically like when you're saying you can't instead of saying you can, you're looking at the negative aspect and be like, oh, I can't squat, so I won't. Instead of being like, well, I can't squat like this, but I can squat like this. And then like, that's led to literally the regressions of like, oh, you're doing with weight, less weight, body weight, less range, more weight on the less range. Like it literally just created the progressions itself. Yeah.
Hey Ben, what I agree with everything you guys are saying, man. But let me ask you this, Ben, like, cause you and Fernando, y'all came up with the name. So I think the main question is like, why ATG?
It just rhymed with, or it was an acronym, ATG, ass to grass. Yeah. So it was the best I could come up with. So we got lucky.
But I'm gonna be honest, I love the name, and I've loved the name since day one. And people have been like, oh, what? It's a cheesy or it's whatever name. Like, but like
So
we just went.
I always thought it was cheesy.
But to
really?
be
You didn't
honest,
really like it?
Nah.
I think it's great because we just talked about why it's great.
Yeah.
And to me, it always made sense. People would ask me, oh, why is it called Athletic Truth Group? I was like, because we are in pursuit of the truth.
Yeah.
I would say it's an
As a
acronym
group.
with ass to grass, but it was like, we have a group, we're pursuing athletic goals, and we are in pursuit of that truth. And that was like, we tried to employ truth in our training, whereas everything else is very authoritarian. It's very like, do this, don't ask why. It's because there's a study in the whatever. And it's like
Taking me back to school.
yeah.
So it was just came to you.
Got lucky.
Wow.
I was writing down all kinds of different things that could fit with ATG and got lucky. And I always thought Athletic Truth Group was cheesy. So even people ask me, oh, what does Athletic Truth Group, or what does ATG stand for? Ass to grass. Yeah. But only now, more recently, I'm like, we've actually kind of lived up to the name. But we have to keep living up to the name. I said in one of my YouTube videos a few years ago titled How to Make Yourself a World-Class Athlete. I don't know if it was word for word, but I basically said anyone can become a world-class athlete. And the problem is that the statement's really not true. Like there is governments and societies have failed us so much on lying to us that we have to do better. If you can make an extra sale today by lying, don't do it. This is for ATG not to become the next failed group. We have to do what all these failed groups don't do. We have to actually keep trying to be more honest, not less honest. And normally it's like you lie about one thing, so now you have to lie about more things to cover up. You have to justify the lie. So it's really simple. Like if we want ATG to keep doing well, we have to not lie. And if we found some past mistake we made, we have to own up. Oh, that was a mistake. Correct.
I'll own up to one right now, actually, just because this is making me think this world-class athlete thing. Because I recently talked to someone I had helped train a few years ago, and they were asking me like about their progress, right? And I, in the past, have definitely said like, same thing. Anyone can be a world-class athlete. I don't really think genetics matter. Like, obviously, that is somewhat true. I don't think genetics should be the reason you don't do something. But genetics obviously matter. Some people are more athletic. Some people have more muscle mass. Like, these are just things that are true. You might not be able to be a world-class athlete, but what I would say is you can be a world-class you.
Yeah. I like that.
So, like wherever you're at, you don't even know how good you can be. Because
you're the best in the world of you.
Yes. And the standard that has been set by like society on what is normal for a person's body to be able to do is so low.
Very low.
That it's like, I still believe that anyone could get a 40-inch vert, men. I think any woman could get a 30-inch vert. Like, these are not super unobtainable goals, but the average person is so far beyond not normal that, it seems like it's abnormal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going against a lot, man, as far as like just we kind of going upstream in terms of like just the truth of
Upstream is a good word, yeah.
But yeah, man, I think Athletic Truth Group is a great name, man. It's funny that you said it just kind of came from jotting words.
I remember I was in my living room, just in my parents' living room, living at home.
Yeah. So you saying you said a lot as far as like your intent behind ATG and why ATG for you. Is that just because you were going through all those, like you said, popping the pills, not really having information, seeing the college stats? Like, right now, where do you see ATG now and off into the future?
That's a good question. I mean, okay, so far, like, what have we really gotten done? We have really changed the game in terms of understanding of knees over toes and full range of motion. And it's now all over social media, across every platform, with other people, other coaches getting results. Like, that will never be the same. That being said, for the younger generation, they're less healthy than ever. We haven't done shit. So I thought that was a pretty cool goal to like educate on knees over toes and ATG, meaning like ass to grass, full range of motion. But we actually have not accomplished nearly enough yet. So the whole next big goal is a lot to face when you realize that it's a lot bigger than what we've accomplished so far. So we actually have to accomplish over the next 5, 10, 20 years. Like, the next goal is like 20 years from now, health stats actually need to be better than they are right now. So like, we are still failing. So if you look at the entire fitness community, any efforts we spend trying to like compare ourselves to someone else in fitness, make someone else wrong, say we're better than someone else, they come back at us. That's not the game we're playing, because we're all losing. Like, collectively as a fitness team, we're all losing. We are failing the people. So that's the next goal. I mean, there is a physical change out there in the world when it comes to understanding of knees over toes, and there's not yet a physical change out there in the world on general health stats. Youth being fit. Youth, how many youth today can do a pull-up? If in 10 years more youth cannot do a pull-up, ATG has failed. Right. That's our goal. 10 years from now, there should be more youth who can do a pull-up than right now. Yeah. That is the big goal. John F. Kennedy was making measurable progress over 60 years ago. His journey ended when he was assassinated. That's the journey that we have to pick back up. That's the journey we have to accomplish. So that's a lot to take in. But now you can see why there's a group, because there's no way I could pull that off. There's no way any of us individually could pull that off. That's why everyone listening to this podcast has a chance to make that goal happen. And the pull-up is just one example. John F. Kennedy had 10 body weight exercises, so we're going to have 10 body weight exercises. Now, before the 10 body weight exercises, he had 2 circulatory exercises, which was walking or running plus jump rope. I think there's some truth in that. I think we can add some backward to that, but it's very, that's good. And then he had some tests for young people: throwing, sprinting, jumping. So we got to figure out the right throwing, sprinting, jumping test. I mean, I can't wait for this weekend. We're all going to be kids testing out. I have a giant measuring tape, medicine ball. So yeah, I'm back to being a kid. And yes, collectively as ATG, we have to recreate JFK's fitness system with circulatory tests, because for kids it has to be interesting. So like right now, my kids are 2 and 3. They actually could test running, throwing. They're not going to learn how to do a calf raise right now, and I'm not going to make them learn how to do a calf raise. JFK had calves on one of his 10 exercises. He actually had hip flexors. He had deep knees over toes squats. It looks like someone drew a picture of me on his foot. I showed it to Derek.
I was like, I swear I thought
you thought it was me, right?
Yeah,
nope.
He was like, look at this. I was like, man, who did this for you?
Yeah, so he had knees over toes. He had hip flexors. He had QLs. He had calves. There wasn't hamstrings. There was lower back. There was so his 10 is actually very close to what we would make a 10 body weight. It was missing scalability. So right now, I've helped some kids, and they're starting out, and they can't even hang from a bar, let alone do a pull-up. We have to scale things all the way back. So every kid, even the biggest kid in school who has the most failures on fitness, can get wins. It has to scale down. It also has to scale up, because some of the things from his book, when I was young, I would have gotten bored with it real quick. I would have gotten bored with crunches real quick. But you know what I wouldn't have gotten bored with? Stall bars, toes to bar, because that's a standard for gymnasts. They have to be able to do over 20 reps. I'm only asking the average kid to do one. And I'm telling you, we trained a lot of kids on the stall bars. 90+% cannot do 1 rep toes to bar. But that's a worthy pursuit. So for each of these 10, we have to scale it down and we have to scale it up. So it's interesting. And all that 10 has to be optional. The tests are the fun part for kids. And then if they want to improve those tests, they'll learn these exercises that can help them improve the test. And the circulatory acts as a warm-up. And all 15 of these, 2 circulatory, 3 tests, and 10 exercises have to be able to be done without any fancy equipment, 15, other than perhaps a ball to toss, a timer for a 100-yard run.
But in terms of
stuff.
accessibility, we're talking about easily accessible things.
Yeah.
And this,
That's deep. That rabbit hole goes deep, bro.
with this whole goal, it's like one of the things I kind of realized while you were saying that is, like we all train typically, for us at least, because of Athletic Truth Group, back to athletic, we were all doing things and figuring things out because we had a game to play, which was literally a sport.
Good point.
Right? Like lots of kids and a lot of the fitness that's been thrown at kids doesn't always have like an actual game connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
So why would they do it? Like it's not fun. Just doing it to do it that's no reason.
They'd rather get on the Xbox.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because they're going to get to have fun and they have like a goal that they're trying to hit that they can actually hit.
Video games are addictive because of the goal in the game. So
Good point.
It is a
There's
goal.
a rightness to video games.
Absolutely. It's like I'm trying to get this next item or whatever level.
Yeah.
So we have to give goals and games in fitness.
Right.
Right.
point,
And
Conor.
this may be a hot take on the video game thing real quick, but like video games and certain types of entertainment that aren't actually like helping you grow, I think are so dangerous because they give you a false sense of progress.
Correct.
Like they give you progress in a world that doesn't actually like help you in the real world.
Yeah,
Right.
Escapism.
And so whatever that is, what we can take why is it working? Why are people getting into it? That's what I've seen is what's the goal, whether real or not.
100%.
I personally agree
let
with
me,
you,
let
but
me
it's
say
like
that,
let's take
I don't
that
disagree
goal.
with playing video games. Like there's healthy balances of everything, right? But yeah, that's the purpose. Is that a video game is something that anyone who can do anything can do, and they can get a win.
Right.
Like he was saying.
That's how porn was for me in high school.
Yep.
You can get a hot girl.
Same. No, 100%.
I was lonely.
Exactly.
Look, I was a
keeping it
nice
real on this
guy.
podcast.
I was a nice guy. I was lonely. I had acne. Porn was a way that I could feel some fake connection.
Yeah.
And
It's-
And that's video games. That's like literally it's one for one.
it gives you some goal. You have some goal that you can go after.
It's junk food. It's all the same thing. So it's
Damn,
but so what?
dopamine.
So how exactly? So how can we take that knowledge and okay, well that obviously works. How can we give that in a fitness stance in the real world? How can we help as a group help guide whether kids, older people, whatever our age, help them hit these wins and that dopamine in something that is real that will improve their health and their life quality.
How can we gamify ATG?
How can we game because all like
and gamify these kids growing up healthier. And even if they play the video game, they'll have more of a balance.
Yeah, I think the standards is. Are we trying to think through that with the standards?
For
That's for adults to have a game. It
And
gives me a
I'm
game.
literally-
I love it.
That's CrossFit, by the way.
Yes.
CrossFit
There's so
is
much
the
rightness.
adult game of fitness.
Yeah.
There's so much right about that.
Yep.
Like,
We over here masterminding right now.
But it's really this common theme is really just the honesty about it, because saying CrossFit is perfect or saying CrossFit is the worst, those are both false statements.
Right.
if there was any perfect fitness system that had ever been created, we would not have health problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The food would be still a battle, but at least the health, like I know for me, it's much easier. Okay, we are all working on our own standards, physical things that we can maintain. I eat better when I work on those because it's like,
I'm telling you, man. You see yourself from a
You
different
also-
vantage point.
Yeah.
Like, man,
Yeah.
But that's its own
naturally
barrier.
Have to.
phase 3 is farming. So
Okay, literally.
Phase 1 was
I've been looking
education,
at hydroponics.
fitness, farming.
Like,
Let's get the level 2 now is getting the youth.
we have a lot to work on the level 2. Level 3 farming.
Yeah.
we
telling you, man.
have some workable systems for adults. We have to create workable systems that are fun for youth. And then once we get through that, we need to solve the diet side, because really there's two sides. There's like what you put into your body and then what you do with your body.
Yeah.
And once you solve those two things,
And
that's a big difference.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing with ATG where we definitely have an emphasis on setting an example, meaning, yes, early in this podcast, I mentioned a study from explaining deeper reasoning, but go to my YouTube and find a study. Go to my Instagram and find a study. You won't find one. Like, I'm trying to work with your power of choice based on me demonstrating real results in my body, setting an example. Yeah. And it's the same. So now, like with this, with JFK's fitness thing and trying to pick that back up, we're trying to live this. I'm going to be doing this with my kids, and all of you out there are going to be doing it with your kids. And like, this is something we're trying to live, not something we're trying to convince people of. And then it's the same when it comes to diet. I'm not going to be trying to tell you what to eat. I'm actually going to be making my own crops. So thanks to all the support out there, I am the proud owner of 18 acres of very farmable land.
Nice.
It's empty right now. It's just 18 acres of flat land. A couple states north of Florida, you get a little bit more variety of what you can grow. And we're building a small house with a schoolhouse. I'm going to be a freaking gym teacher.
Again.
It's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm going to be in the freaking trenches teaching 6 to 14-year-olds. You think they give a shit if I'm knees over toes guy? I am back in the trenches, and I'm going to have 6 to 14-year-olds trying to keep them from not being addicted to video games because they have so much self-esteem. There's no lunch, what do you call it? Lunch period?
Yeah, lunch break.
No. We're calling it lunch class. The kids are contributing to the food each day. The kids are learning how to grow food, garden food.
Cook food.
And I've already secured only one teacher for the school because I think I can do everything else with Alyssa because it's just really common sense subjects. And that's an actual chef. Like, his job is to show up for lunch class each day and help the kids learn how to make food.
That's awesome.
I never really thought about that before on the diet front, but it's like, man, most people when they're younger, like I took cooking classes for 4 years, so I'm a little different.
Good for you.
But a lot of people go to like school, they get all their foods from the cafeteria. Yep. They get out into the real world after college.
Don't know how to cook.
Literally don't know how to make eggs.
I lived off fast food because of that. I didn't learn usable skills in school. And so, yes, I'm not going to tell you that you're bad for eating Doritos or this or that. Actually, I shouldn't even mention anything. Just make someone want the junk food. But the truth is, like, I found that already my kids at 2 and 3 can fresh squeeze orange juice.
Wow.
Already at 2 and 3, because you hold on to the thing and you do it. So it's going to be a gradual process, and I think age 6 is about realistic. My daughter's on a mission in life, though, so she'll be younger than my son, but she'll start the school a little bit earlier. But the point is, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to try to set an example. So, yeah, phase 3 is, quite frankly, by then, I think a few of you guys will be out there with land near me, quite frankly. I think
I've already claimed my outhouse. So.
I'll keep an eye out for the land around there because it's really not as expensive as you would think to get land. You just have to be a bit away from cities, so you lose a little bit of that, what people think is a great life.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah, but I do think this is where the group comes in. Is like, yeah, I do think you might feel a bit weird if you're just kind of out detached and you don't have any friends around. And so I know for me, the idea of having friends around who are also, working on different things like this, and so my kids, I don't want to call them homeschooled. That's why I'm making a schoolhouse. Like, I want other kids to come over. I'm just having to rebuild a school from ground zero. So people are like, oh, you're homeschooling. Actually not. Like, I actually do believe in the school concept. I just believe we have to kind of build a school back from zero.
Yeah.
I think schools were always meant to teach practical life, workable things. Yeah. And they got away from that to an extent. There's a lot of value in a lot of things that school teaches, but it's like learning physics before you can make eggs and like orange juice is one of these is going to affect your life typically way more than the other. Unless you want to be a rocket scientist for Elon, then maybe you should learn the physics too.
And that's why I'm focusing up to 14. You still have a lot of time there to like do what you want to do after that. So if you've got all the basics in really well, if you're really good at learning, that's the last thing I'll give on this that kind of relates to ATG is power of choice is a big deal to us. We don't force people to do things. Like, if you don't want to go do something in ATG, like, I don't actually want you to. Like, if there's only a couple things about ATG, they're like, oh, I actually want to do that, then do that. We have to explain the reasoning behind it. We have to give you time to process it and have your power of choice. So when I went through school, like that wasn't part of it. So I'm already setting up how are these classes going to work. And then just like with ATG, the whole school system will be a YouTube channel so that you can see like how exactly am I running each class. So like what I've got for music class so far is take those kids to a music store. And is that me?
No.
Is that? It might be.
No, it's D.
Oh, okay.
No bad.
You good?
What, I'm going to ask my kids, I don't think they're quite ready at 2 and 3, but they're getting closer. Like, what instrument do you want to play? Let them pick it out. And that may change at any time. If at any time, you want to learn something else, all right, we'll go back to the music. What musical instrument do you want to play? Okay, now you want to play that musical instrument. Then, so I'll be having to hire out for a lot of these specific classes. So like, okay, if Onyx wants to play the guitar, I'm going to find a buddy who can make like an hour-long video that Onyx can watch that goes from start, that by the end he's actually productively doing something with that guitar. So like you can learn almost anything step by step if you have the willingness to learn it. And like there's a music class, and I get to sit there as the teacher and watch him do that. And there's a lot of things I can teach him, but there's a lot of things I can't. And then anything useful that I figure out will be going on this YouTube channel. And of course, this whole fitness system thing, we're going to start putting videos out within the next couple weeks, because once we've realized, geez, we got to do something about this youth fitness. There's no reason to wait.
Yeah, I love it. And last thing I'll say is the app and what you see on Instagram or even YouTube is highly the practical side, right?
Yep.
And I think in learning and having a true power of choice is seeing both the theory and why with the practical in balance.
Yeah.
So this sounds like what you're going to do with your school. It's like you learn why and how, like in the theory, and then you actually have to do it. So I hope this podcast, for me personally, the reason I'm excited to do these podcasts is that I want to give you the theory and why ATG, right? Why these exercises, why do we do it this way, so that you, when you then do it, you'll actually learn and you'll have your own power of choice behind doing that.
Yeah, I love it, man. My last words is one of my quotes, man, I always say is never listen to anyone in any field that's not experiencing the results you want to produce. And I think my why true behind ATG is like Ben said, man, he's not just, because a lot of people, there's a lot of preachers out here, there's a lot of people like standing on their pulpit, but not able to do a lot of things they're talking about. And so one thing that the truth behind it is Ben shows you he's just not talking, and Conor shows you he's just not talking. Even Conor's so authentic now, he's showing you his progression from 20 inches to back up to 40 inches, and Fernando, you really are who you say you are, you know what I mean? So I feel like living it in myself, man, I wouldn't even be around if I felt like I couldn't do the things I'm talking about. It's just like it's not in me to be a fraud, you know what I mean? So I feel like the authenticity of ATG is real, man. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people can relate to just that part of the authenticity of ATG, man. So last thing I would say, man, is like it's real, man. Ben is really knees over toes guy. You know what I'm saying?
Derek's really Mr. Infinity. That's why Derek is our longevity leader. Derek gives us hope for the future. Derek shows us what we could do in our 40s. Derek's our longevity leader, not because of something he's ever said. He just is that example. And so we can see that, we can follow his path.
LJ.
I got a ton out of this. Scalability. I'm never going to forget that one. That's such a good way of explaining. So that hurts. Okay, well, that doesn't mean we're just going to avoid that part of the body. We are going to scale ability. Regression is definitely a bit depressing.
Yeah.
Regression, sounds depression. Like depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. It just, again, it's like.
What's another word for that?
Well, scale ability.
Okay.
It's pretty it's scalability, but it's two separate words.
We were
Scale,
on the same wavelength.
ability. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all said it at the same time, right? Jinx.
Yeah.
But no, this was a good podcast.
I think the last thing I'll say on this, just with like more of why ATG for me, right, is because I feel like a lot of this share this, kind of like what you're talking about. There's like a practical side of just doing things and getting better, and then there's like kind of the theory side of how do you actually do that. And something I see a lot with coaches is that all we do is coach. We don't actually teach why. And for some people, that's enough, right? They don't need convincing. They just want to listen to you, and that's okay. Some people don't just listen to people. They need someone to actually explain why and show why, and for them to take action. And something I've learned very heavily, both through like business, training, and just life, is that if you don't learn how you actually did whatever you did to yourself, you can always have it come back and lose that, right? So it's like, it's one thing to have someone coach you and then you're better, but then you didn't know why. And so when things come up in the future, you just degrade. Like, I think ATG really has put an emphasis on simplifying training concepts so that anyone could understand the very fundamental reasons these things do and don't work, so that no matter what happens in your life, you don't have to be effective of the things that are happening to you anymore. And
good point.
The connected part of that is that the other aspect of that is, like, as a trainer, this might sound weird at first, but I've never cared about what any one of my clients wants to do necessarily, in the sense that, like, your goal's your goal. And like you do care about their goal is their goal. Yeah, like I might not actually care about your goal. Like, if you want to be a bodybuilder, this does not interest me personally. What I do care about is that you can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And that was the whole reason I even got into ATG in the first place. Was like a 4-hour conversation Ben and I had, and it was all about, we were gonna help everyone help themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, and hopefully you got something out of this.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all watching, man.
See you guys next week.
See you next time.
Peace.